Before we begin, if you enjoy this kind of content, slow, immersive stories that help you fall asleep, take a moment now to like and subscribe. It helps more than you know, and if you find it's not for you, you can always unsubscribe later. No pressure at all. Now, let's leave the day behind. Take a deep breath. Let the noise of the world fall away like dust from an old velvet curtain. You're here now, with the past. If you're listening in the dark, even better. Let the low hum of your fan become the wind off ancient rooftops. Let the warmth of your blanket become the fire of a candlelit chamber. Tonight, we're not reading history, we're stepping into it, quietly, carefully. You're not just hearing a story, you're inside it. So before we begin, take a moment to let your body go heavy. Feel the bed beneath you. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw, let your fingers curl loosely, let your feet fall outward. There's nowhere to be but here, no one to impress, nothing to do, just this moment, this breath, this scurrying. Close your eyes if they're not closed already. It's not 2:35 anymore, not here, let's begin. You don't wake up so much as drift out of something that never really counted as sleep. It's dark, your body aches, and the room still smells like last night's work. That smell? It never really leaves. You're a Gong Farmer, the man who moves the filth, the one who digs out human waste with a shovel, a bucket, and whatever's left of your dignity. The job pays better than most, sure, but that's because no one wants to stand where you stand, because you don't walk through life, you wade. Your shift begins long after the town goes still, when windows shutter, when doors bolt, when the rats take over and the cobblestones sweat with fog. You dress in silence. Your tunic is thick and oil-soaked, meant to keep out moisture. It doesn't. The smell of ammonia and decay is woven into the fabric, stitched into the seams, seeped into your skin. Your wife once tried boiling it in vinegar and rosemary. The smell still won. So now you both pretend not to notice. You sling a yoke across your shoulders, 2 buckets swaying from iron hooks, a rake, a shovel, a hemp rope, and the cart. The cart is always waiting. It's just wood and rusted wheels, but it might as well be your altar. You spend more time pulling it than speaking to anyone. It creaks like it's in pain. Sometimes you imagine it's trying to tell you to quit, but you don't. Because someone has to dig the pits. Someone has to carry the stink. You light your lantern, a stub of tallow in a battered tin cage. It throws just enough light to make the shadows look worse. Then you step out, into the narrow veins of the medieval town. Every alley smells like something died in it. Some alleys are telling the truth. You pass closed shops, shuttered inns, crooked houses huddled together like old gossiping women. They know you, they know your footsteps, and they pretend not to. Your first stop tonight is behind a butcher's stall. The pit is low and round, ringed with crumbling stone and flies that never sleep. You wedge the ladder down first, careful, slow. You slipped once last year and bruised a rib. Took you 2 days to stand straight again. No one offered to help. You descend like a man entering a grave, because it is a grave in its way. The grave of everything that people flush from their lives. You sink past the top rung. Boots vanish beneath the surface. There's a slick, oily film on top that clings to your skin like guilt. You start to dig. It's not just excrement down here. It's everything. Dead rats, rotten straw, shattered pottery, women's cloths soaked in things best not described, crushed fish bones, teeth, once a chicken skull, still red in the eye sockets. You dig until the shovel bites earth, until the surface of the pit dips like a bowl. You fill each bucket hand over hand, lifting it on the rope, dump it into the cart, repeat. Don't think too much. Thinking makes it worse. When your lantern flickers, you pause. Not out of fear, you just don't want to be left with only the smell. Sometimes the fumes make you lightheaded. There are tales, ones you tell half seriously, of farmers fainting and never waking. You once saw a man lower a dog into the pit to chase out a rat. The dog came back blind. You never forget that. When the pit is done, you scatter straw over the fresh layer, wipe your hands on the inside of your coat, and move on. Next stop, the tavern's privy. It always overflows too soon. Too many patrons, too much ale. Too few apologies. You know which places tip in bread, which ones pretend they don't know you, which ones threaten to beat you if you track filth on their doorstep. You never do, but it doesn't matter. They'll still blame the stink on you, even if it came from their own cupbearer. You're halfway through the tavern pit when something soft bumps your foot. You don't look. You learned not to. Instead, you hum. A broken tune your mother sang when she scrubbed pots. Back when you thought working inside meant you were rich, now you envy the girl who gets to clean the floor. At least you can see the sky. You empty 6 more buckets before the pit stops steaming. Your arms shake. Your wrists burn. You take a break in the alley behind the bakery where the rats run faster than your feet, but the wall is warm from the ovens. You chew a crust you packed hours ago. It's hard as stone. Still better than breathing in full nosefuls of what you carry. You've learned to eat without smelling. That's a skill. A strange, sad skill. But it keeps your stomach quiet, and your mind from going dark. The church pit is next. You aren't supposed to say that out loud. The priest insists they use the holy chamber. You call it what it is, a hole like any other. You hate the church pit more than the others, not because it smells worse, although it does, but because of the lies wrapped around it. The priests speak of holiness and ritual, but their waste stinks like everyone else's. You brace the ladder again. This one is older, the rungs slick and swollen from rain and rot. You descend anyway, one hand on the rope, the other clutching your lantern tight. The pit is wide, deeper than most. Sometimes you wonder how much of the graveyard drains into it. You never ask. No one answers. Your shovel strikes something soft and wet. You don't look. You dig until the bottom seeps black water. Then you hoist the buckets one by one, arms screaming. Your hands are blistered through your gloves. You lost a fingernail once from the rope. It didn't grow back right. When the pit is done, you scatter lime. The priest leaves a pouch of it by the wall, as if that makes up for never coming near you. You nod toward the altar window on your way out, not in prayer, just in warning. You know where the real rot lives. Your cart groans beneath the weight now. You've emptied 5 pits. You think about stopping. You don't. There's still the baker's lane to do. The stench there is sweeter, somehow worse. It clings in the throat like spoiled honey. You pass the tavern again. Someone is vomiting in the alley. You cross the street. You don't want them to mistake you for the source. Again, your boots squish with every step. You don't remember the last time they dried. They're stuffed with rags, moss, whatever you could find. Still, your toes are raw and cracked, and your heels bleed when you walk too long. You're used to it. You've stopped limping. Limping draws attention. Attention draws cruelty. Children used to throw things at you. Once it was an apple core. Once it was a stone. That one split your brow. You still have the scar. These days they just hold their noses and laugh. Their mothers pull them away. Their fathers pretend not to notice. No one wants to acknowledge the man who holds back the flood of filth, but they all want you to show up tomorrow. You reach the dumping field just past the town wall. The wind is different out here, sharp and open, but it doesn't carry the stink away. It spreads it. The dumping ground is a shallow trench lined with old straw and ash. You tip the cart and empty the load. It splashes thick and dark into the basin. You rake it flat. The ground squelches under your boots. Flies buzz around your ears like curses. You swat one and hit your own face. It's not the worst thing to touch you today. Some of this waste will be dried and used in fields. You know that. The barley the nobles eat is grown in soil rich with their own filth. You think about that every time you see them break bread in the hall. You wonder if they would still smile if they knew the flavour came from themselves. Once, a nobleman rode past while you were dumping a load. He turned up his nose and said, "Thank God I wasn't born to that life." You didn't reply. What would you say? You were born into it too, and you're still here, still carrying it. You finish raking, cover the trench with ash and brush. Tomorrow someone will come by and burn it. Not for health, just to keep the smell from reaching the merchant road. They care about the horses more than they care about you. You drag your cart back slowly. The streets are starting to stir. Smoke rises from chimneys. The baker is lighting his oven. The cook is shouting again. You pass the same girl you saw yesterday barefoot, hair tied in twine, hauling water in a pot larger than her head. She nods. You nod back. No words. You both know how early the day starts. At your door, you stop and wipe your boots on the threshold. Habit. Doesn't help. The stink still follows. Your wife leaves a rag soaked in vinegar by the hearth. You press it to your face and breathe through it until your nose burns. Then you peel off your coat, hang it by the door and wash your hands in the bucket. The water is black in minutes. You dump it outside. The chickens scatter. They're used to you now. You eat what's left of last night's bread. Dry, but soaked in broth. It helps. You chew slowly, jaw sore, hand shaking. Your back aches. You lie down on a straw pallet, turn your face to the wall and try not to dream. Sometimes you dream of being clean, of walking through town without people stepping back, of touching your wife's face without her flinching. Sometimes you dream of drowning in a pit, in a trench, in something thicker than water. You always wake with your hands clenched. But not today. Today, you sleep. You'll wake again at sunset. Put on the same coat, lift the same shovel, pull the same cart. Because if you don't, no one else will. And the town will drown. You wake before the bell, not because you're rested, but because you're used to the pain. Your hands throb before you even open your eyes. You stretch and your shoulders crack like dried leather. The cloak you sleep on is still damp. So is the air. So is everything. Downstairs, the vats are already waiting. The hides from yesterday have darkened. The bark is leaching in. It smells like vinegar and blood. You don't eat breakfast. There's nothing to eat. Just a crust left over from 2 days ago. You chew it anyway, softened from the steam in the loft. You almost convince yourself that counts as kindness. Today's job is the raw pile. A stack of fresh hides delivered at dawn by the butcher's boy. They're stiff with blood, curled at the edges, still sticky with things that used to be alive. Flies gather the moment you lift the cloth that covers them. You wave them away. They return. You drag the first hide to the scraping bench. It's heavy, wet, like carrying a man who lost a fight. You brace your knee against the beam and pull your knife. You scrape in long strokes, peeling back the outer world. Bits of flesh come away in ribbons. Hair clings to your hands. You flick it off. The blade slips once. Your thumb catches it. You don't curse. You just spit on the cut and keep going. The tanner walks past. He says nothing, just sniffs the hide, nods, and walks on. That's his version of praise. You'll take it. Later, you refill the lime pit. You haul the powder from the shed in sacks slung over your shoulder. One breaks. A puff of white dust blinds you. You cough. You keep going. The lime stings your throat for hours. You don't ask for water. There's none to spare. You suck a pebble to trick your tongue into forgetting. A boy from the next village once complained about the lime. The tanner made him soak his hands in it for a full hour. He left the next morning. No one asked where he went. You stir the lime vat with the same pole you used yesterday. It's warped from the heat. You burn your hand where the splinter dug in. You wrap it in rags. The rag sticks. You keep going. At midday, the sun crests over the wall. It lights the hides drying on the rack, makes them shine like old parchment. A few look ruined, too dry, edges curled, spotted with mould. You'll be blamed for that. Even if the rain was 3 days ago and the tanner left them out too long. Doesn't matter. The apprentice always gets the blame. And the work. You rinse your blade in a bucket of brine. It smells like meat that turned bitter. You wonder how long until your hands forget what clean water feels like, if they ever knew. The tanner's wife brings out a bowl of boiled grain. It's thin, watery, but warm. You're not allowed to take it. It's for the journeyman upstairs. He hasn't worked the pits in years. He gives orders now. You see him watching from the loft sometimes, clean shirt, smooth hands. He used to stand where you stand. You wonder what he traded to get out. You carry a fresh hide to the stretching frame. It drips as you move, leaving streaks behind you. The frame creaks as you tighten the pegs. One snaps. You curse under your breath. You'll fix it later, after dark when no one's watching. You work past sundown. The moon is rising, pale and useless. The dogs are howling in the alley. Probably something dead nearby. Maybe a rat, maybe not. You return to the lime shed to close it. A smell hits you, worse than the rest. Rot, but older, deeper. You step inside. A hide has gone bad, left too long in its first soak. It's black at the edges, bloated. The tanner will be furious. You know this because he already is. He's standing behind you. You flinch. He doesn't speak, just grabs your arm and hauls you back. You fall in the yard, palms scraping stone. He points at the vat. You nod. That means clean it. Alone. Tonight. You wait until he's gone, then fetch your gloves. You drain the vat by hand. You pull the hide free, careful not to let the slime spill over your boots. It doesn't matter. It does anyway. You dump it in the pit behind the fence, the one no one talks about, the one where ruined things go. You drag the bucket of lye to the edge and rinse the inside of the vat. You cough until your ribs ache. When it's done, you sit beside the door. You don't go back upstairs yet. You just sit. Your arms twitch. Your head pulses. But the stars are out. You watch them. You think they must smell like something else. Something clean. You close your eyes, just for a moment. Then you hear it. Boots on gravel. The journeyman. He's carrying something. A cloth bundle. He drops it next to you. New gloves, he says. You look down. They're stiff. Coated in wax. Still better than what you had. You nod. He walks away. You don't say thanks. He wouldn't want you to. You climb the ladder to the loft. The cloak is gone. Someone else took it. You lie on bare straw. Your back sticks to the boards. You don't care. You dream of bark boiling in a pot. You dream of a hide that won't come clean. You dream of your hands, raw and red, reaching for something that never comes. Tomorrow you'll rise again. Before the bell, before the light, you'll scrape, stir, stretch, rinse, and bleed, and no one will see you. But every pair of boots in town, every saddle, every sheath, every strap holding up a lord's armour depends on you. You're not a knight, not a noble, not a master, but the town walks because of your hands, even if no one remembers your name.
The tannery has gone quiet. The apprentices sleep. The town exhales, but the fields beyond the last cottage have already started stirring. A rustle, a grunt, a shriek loud enough to scare birds from the rafters. The pigs are awake, and so are you. You are the pig herder, not a butcher, not a farmer, not even a free man, technically. You don't own the land. You don't own the pigs. You own the job. If you can call this a job, you pull on your wool tunic, still stiff with dried mud, and reach for your stick. It's ashwood, knotted, and notched down the side. You've carved one for each season you've survived. You stopped counting a while ago. The pigs are already screaming. They know you're late. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they just scream for the joy of it, or the chaos, or the hunger. You unbolt the pen gate and step aside. They come like a flood. 14 of them today, maybe 15. You don't name them. Not officially, but you know them. There's Guts, bigger than the rest, smarter too. He can undo the latch if you don't tie it twice. And Button, the runt, half blind but loud enough to wake the dead. Model with the torn ear, Snipe with the crooked tail. You know them all. You wish you didn't. Guts can open the gate with his snout and a little patience. Button once screamed so loud the steward's wife sent down a guard to investigate. And Snipe has a habit of nipping at your ankles when your back's turned. You've still got the scar from last summer. One pig fakes a limp, so often you nearly sent her to the butcher. The next day she ran across the field like a noble at a tax hearing. You've stopped assuming anything about pigs. One of them tries to slip past you. It always does. Guts, again. You jab your stick at his side, nudge him back into line. He glares at you. You glare back. You dump kitchen scraps into the trough. Onion tops, stale crusts, cabbage leaves slick with slime. They dive in, shoving, biting, squealing. You step back before you get caught in it. Last week, one of them got your ankle, drew blood. It got infected. You walked with a limp for 3 days. No one noticed. The pen is mud. Always mud. You shovel it when you can, but the pigs undo your work within minutes. They like the filth. Wallow in it. Roll in it. Sleep in it. Sometimes you envy them. Your boots are ruined. The soles peel. You stuff them with straw and bits of cloth. When the frost comes, your toes go purple, then white. You've lost feeling in 2 of them. There's a boil on your shoulder from carrying wet sacks. And something in your hip clicks now when you crouch. But you still get up. You patch a hole in the fence with rope and a piece of firewood. It's not pretty, but it holds. Guts tests it anyway. You tap the post with your stick. He backs off. For now. Your stick isn't just a stick. It's your tool, your weapon, your language. The pigs don't listen to your voice. They listen to the tap, tap, tap. You've become the sound. Then it's time to move. The pigs can't stay penned all day. They need acorns, roots, room to fight, and the lords need them fat. So you lead them out, through the alley, past the baker's door, past the inn where no one makes eye contact. A noblewoman pinches her nose and steps wide around you, dropping her kerchief so you'll pick it up. You don't. She stares like you're the filth itself. The baker's apprentice mutters, "Swine boy," as you pass. You hear it. So does Guts. He grunts at the sound. Good pig. The cobbler refuses to serve you now. Says you brought illness into his stall. You never entered his stall. Didn't matter. Last winter, the blacksmith gave you a hot stone wrapped in cloth. Didn't say a word. Just nodded once. You remember it, because no one else ever did. You reach the field at last. The pigs rush ahead, grunting and squelching through the frost-softened dirt. The sun is rising, weak, pale, indifferent. You let the pigs scatter. This is the closest thing you get to rest. You lean against a post. Chew a crust from your pocket. It's old. It tastes like the inside of your boot. Still better than nothing. You spit out a pebble and sigh. Then you count. Always count. 1, 2, 3. Wait. You walk the field again. One pig's gone off into the bramble. You find her stuck, squealing, legs flailing. A piglet, not Button, a new one. You haul her out, careful of the thorns. She shivers. You whisper nonsense. She calms. She's limping. You check her leg. A twist, maybe. You tear a strip from your sleeve and wrap it loose. She grunts softly and leans into you. You've seen worse. You've seen pigs torn apart in fights, trampled, bitten. Once, you watched a sow die giving birth. 3 piglets lived. One of them still follows you more than the others. You don't feed her more, but she stays close. Last year, a boy tried to grab a feed bucket during a fight. The sow turned on him, took 2 fingers clean off. You wrapped his hand and walked him to the healer. He didn't return. They said he was slow anyway. Like that made it fair. You remember the outbreak. Swine fever. It hit 2 villages over. Started slow. One pig stopped eating, then another. Then the skin started to bruise. Eyes ran red. Fever set in. Then death. The steward ordered the whole herd slaughtered. Burned in a pit behind the granary. You smelled it for weeks. Some of the pigs screamed until the smoke took them. The priest called it a sign. The steward blamed the herder. You carry herbs in your pouch now, not for healing, for luck. Bay leaf, mugwort, a little salt. You sprinkle it in the trough sometimes, just in case. Midday, the pigs lie flat in the grass, their bellies swollen. A few twitch in their sleep. One rolls over and farts loud enough to scare a bird from a branch. You laugh, just once. The sky turns, clouds build. You know the signs. Rain's coming. Rain means mud, and mud means losing a shoe, maybe a toe. In spring, the field floods. You dig trenches to drain it. No one asked you to. You did it anyway. Pigs were drowning. No one noticed but the pigs. And you daydream sometimes. Not of wealth, or even peace, but quiet. A hill, a sheepdog, something clean. You don't dwell. You move. You tap your stick. The pigs stir. Time to head back. You tap your stick. The pigs stir. Time to head back. But heading back isn't simple. It never is. You have to trick them. Coax, bribe, threaten. A few start moving. Button follows you because she always does. Guts lingers, chewing a branch like it owes him money. One of the sows is asleep on her side, snoring. Another has vanished entirely. You count again. Still short. You walk the field. Call. Not that it helps. They don't answer to names, only rhythm, only pressure, only food. You find the missing piglet digging through leaves at the tree line. You chase her back with slow steps and a firm voice. Not fear, not anger, just steadiness. That's what they respond to, most days. You move slowly toward the gate at the far side of the field. The pigs fall into motion, some walking, others trotting, a few shoving. One stops to defecate in the middle of the path. Two start fighting over something neither one even wants. You don't stop them. Let them sort it. You only intervene if blood's drawn. Back through the alley now, past the baker's door. The smell of bread makes your stomach fold inward. You haven't eaten since that crust this morning. You won't again until the pigs are down. The storm arrives the moment you unlatch the gate. A sharp wind, a warning crack of thunder, then rain, heavy, immediate, soaking. The pigs panic. Mud flares up underfoot. One slips, shrieks, bolts in the wrong direction. The rest scatter. You curse. You run. You herd with your whole body now. Stick, shoulders, voice. You block paths. Redirect with your feet. Snipe tries to bite you again in the confusion. You swat at him. He squeals, runs straight into the trough wall. One by one, you get them inside. Button last, trembling and squinting. You scoop her under the belly and toss her in. The rain keeps falling. You latch the gate. Tie the extra knot, just in case Guts gets ideas. The pigs crowd under the thatch lean-to on the far side of the pen, huddled and wet. You're soaked through. Your tunic clings like rotten skin. Your boots squelch. Your breath fogs. Your hands won't close all the way. But the pigs are home. You rake the worst of the muck from the path so you don't slip. Then you sit on the overturned trough bucket and catch your breath. You stare at the herd. 14 now. 14. You keep thinking it should be 15. You never counted wrong before. You hope you're just tired. You hope that's all. You rise. Start repairs. One of the hinges is loose again. You wedge in a splintered twig to hold it until morning. You wipe down the trough, more for show than function. The rain will wash it filthy again in an hour. Then you tend the worst injuries. One pig has a cracked hoof. You wrap it in cloth and spit. Another has a gash near her ear. You smear it with lard and whisper something about being lucky it wasn't deeper. The pigs don't answer. Of course they don't, but they know your hands. They don't flinch when you touch them now. You don't eat pork anymore. Not since last year. Not since the steward served sausage made from a sow you'd raised from a piglet. You knew it was her. You could taste it, and you didn't finish the bowl. You got sick instead. The steward didn't notice. He was laughing at something. You just sat there, your mouth full of ash and memory. The pigs fall asleep before you do. They sleep in a pile, snorting, twitching, occasionally farting loud enough to rattle the gate. It should be funny. Sometimes it is. You curl up near the corner of the fence, your cloak pulled tight around your legs. There's no point walking back to the quarters. You'd only track mud in and wake the dog. Better to sleep out here. Safer, in some strange way. The pigs shift in their sleep. One flops against the fence. Another rolls onto her back and sighs. You stare at the sky. Can't see the stars. Too much rain. But you remember them. Your mother used to say the stars watched over those no one else would. You believed her once. You don't anymore. But still, you look. You doze lightly, only half gone. Always ready to wake if a pig squeals, or escapes, or if Guts decides tonight's the night he becomes king of the pen. He's tried before. The first time he challenged you, you stood your ground. He rushed. You held your stick steady. He broke your ribs. 3 of them. You remember how it hurt to breathe. You didn't tell anyone. You just wrapped yourself in your blanket and didn't move much for a week. The pig still needed tending. No one else would do it. In the dark, you remember the one you had to kill. Not for meat, not for illness, for rage. She went wild, started biting the others, tore through the fence, nearly killed Button. You cornered her behind the tannery, took your stick, did what you had to do. She squealed the whole time. You still hear it sometimes when the wind blows right. That's the thing about pigs. They feel, they remember, they forgive less than dogs, more than men. You wonder what they'd say if they could speak. Probably nothing kind. You wake before the pigs. Always do. There's dew on your boots and a dead rat floating in the feed bucket. You fish it out. Toss it in the ditch. Don't flinch. You start the day again. No bell, no call. Just habit. The pigs stir slowly. Button is first. She snorts and sneezes herself upright. Then the others. A chorus of snuffles and groans. You count again. 14. Still 14. You tap the stick. They line up. Mostly. Guts bumps 2 others out of the way. You give him a look. He doesn't care. You lead them out again. Because this is what you do. Because it has to be done. You walk the herd out again. Same path. Same order. Same tired feet. The town is barely stirring. A stable boy blinks at you as you pass. A dog barks once, then curls back up. No one else sees you. You're used to that. On the way to the field, you fix the rope that drags behind Guts. He's chewed it loose again. He looks proud. You swat his flank with the stick. He grunts. The pigs sniff at everything. Old boots, beetle nests, the ash pit behind the bakery. One finds a puddle and sits in it like a lord claiming land. Another chases a crow for no reason. You let them. There's no point fighting their chaos. The air smells like wet thatch and spoiled apples. You feel it in your joints. Rain again by evening, maybe worse. You'll need to cover the feed if it floods. You reach the pasture. You drive stakes back into the ground. Mend the fence where it sagged. Scoop the worst of the muck away. You're not doing it for credit. You're doing it so the pigs don't wander off or drown in a ditch. You're doing it because no one else will. Midday comes, and the pigs flop in the dirt like drunks after a feast. Bellies bloated, noses twitching, one leg shaking in sleep. You eat alone on a crate you dragged from the tannery last spring. Your bread is old. The cheese is older. Still, you chew slow, like it matters. You sip water from a cracked gourd. You used to wish for more. Better food, new boots, a clean shirt. Now you just wish your fingers didn't cramp before the sun hits its peak. You clean Button's ear where snipe nipped it. You hum while you do it. A tune your mother sang over dishes. Guts watches. His eyes don't blink enough. You think he understands more than he should. You dream of other lives sometimes, not grand ones. Shepherd, maybe. Huntsman. Something cleaner. But the dreams end, and the pigs are still here. And so are you. Evening falls. You tap your stick. They rise. You lead them home, 1 by 1, 2 by 2. Back through the alley, back past the silent windows and turned backs. Back to the pen that leaks in the corner and creaks when it rains. You count them again. 14. Still 14. You tie the gate tight. You check it twice. You sit. You breathe. Tomorrow will be the same, but the pigs will still need you, and that, somehow, is enough.
You wake up coughing. Again. Not because you're sick, but because you sleep less than 5 feet from a forge. The soot never settles. It's in your nose, your lungs, your skin. The straw mattress beneath you is blackened and half burned at the corners. Your blanket smells like iron filings and old sweat. You haven't washed it this season. You haven't had time. You're about 13, or maybe 14. No one really counted. You started when your voice still cracked, and your hands were too small to grip the tongs properly. That didn't matter. You had arms. You had legs. You weren't the blacksmith's son, but your father owed him a favour. That's as good as a contract. 7 years. Maybe more. You don't get a say. Modern teenagers worry about screen time. You worry about singed eyebrows. There's no law coming to save you from child labour. Just your master shouting for firewood before the sun comes up. You throw on your tunic, coarse wool soaked with sweat and ash. The knees are patched. The collar's been singed 3 times. You grab your gloves, cracked leather, missing 2 fingers, and step outside into the yard, your boots crunching through old slag and black snow. The forge is cold, that's the problem. Your first job every morning is lighting it again. It takes forever. You stack the coals, gather kindling, and strike flint against steel until your knuckles bleed. Sparks catch. You coax it with your breath like you're trying to wake a sleeping god. The kind that punishes you for trying too hard. It's early, but the bellows work has to start now. You grip the handles and pump, slowly, then faster. The fire roars, briefly, then settles. You pump more. The muscles in your arms burn, your back twinges, but you don't stop. The blacksmith appears behind you just in time to bark something unintelligible and kick over the water bucket. You nod. You refill it. You don't ask why. That's the rule. You don't ask. You fetch. You carry. You pump. You scrub. You get hit with hot sparks and hope they miss your eyes. Today's job is horseshoes. That means iron bars need to be heated, cut, hammered, cooled, shaped, checked, reheated and hammered again. You won't be doing that part, of course. You're not trusted with a hammer. Not yet. You hold the tongs. You turn the iron in the coals. You pump the bellows again. The fire spits. You flinch. The blacksmith sees it and grunts. Not in sympathy. In irritation. He once told you flinching is what kills people in here. You believe him. You've seen a man lose part of a finger to an unfinished horseshoe. You still remember the sound it made when it hit the floor. Breakfast is a crust of bread stuffed in your pocket last night. You chew it between tasks when he's not looking. It's stale. You chip a tooth last week on something that might have been a stone. Or bone. You didn't check. You haven't been home in 3 seasons. You sleep behind the forge. You wash in the water trough when no one's using it. Your hands are permanently grey. Your nails black. You stop trying to scrub them. The blacksmith's wife sometimes tosses you scraps. End of the broth. Heel of the loaf. She never speaks. Just drops it in a bowl and walks away. You thank her anyway. Every time. You haul coal from the back store. Heavy sacks on one shoulder. The path is slick from last week's snow and this morning's ash. You slip. You recover. You keep walking. Your shoulder is already raw from the strap. You cut iron bars to length with a hacksaw that lost half its teeth. The blade catches. You keep going. You're sweating now, even in the cold. That's normal. The heat of the forge sticks to your ribs like second skin. A customer comes in. Someone from the village. Needs a blade sharpened. Not your job, but you wipe your hands and stand quietly anyway. You're not allowed to speak unless spoken to. You get spoken to once a week. Usually to be told to move. The blacksmith shapes a red-hot bar while you hold the tongs. Your wrists tremble. You grip harder. If you drop it, the iron's ruined. The job has to start again. You've dropped it once. Only once. You remember the welt that followed. You know the tools like you know your own bones. The hammer is called mal. The anvil is older than you. The tongs bite harder than some dogs. The quenching barrel smells like burnt blood. You sharpen chisels, clean the files, rewrap the grip on a hammer with a strip of old leather you boiled yourself. You didn't know how. You guessed. The grip held. A spark lands in your collar. You slap it out before it burns through to your chest. It's not the first time. Won't be the last. You once got burned so bad you couldn't lift your arm for 2 days. The blacksmith said, then lift it with the other. You pump the bellows again. The fire never rests, so neither do you. You dream sometimes of holding the hammer, just once, of shaping the iron instead of preparing it, of striking instead of sweating. But not yet. Maybe in year 5. Maybe. You delivered a scythe last week to a farmer who didn't even look at you. Just nodded at the blacksmith and walked away. You were the one who sharpened it. You try not to think about it. You clean the slag from the forge floor. You patch a hole in the roof with a flattened tin mug. You fish a dead rat out of the water bucket and throw it into the coals. It sizzles. You don't blink. You don't blink at much anymore. You eat standing up. You sleep fully dressed. You're woken by coughing and by the sound of iron shifting in the heat. You're a blacksmith's apprentice. You're not special, but you are necessary. You wake again before sunrise. Your muscles ache, your fingers won't straighten all the way, and your throat tastes like smoke. You dreamt of hammers again, not swinging them, just carrying them all day, up a hill, into the sun. No one was waiting at the top. The forge is still warm from last night. You bank the coals well. That's something. You learnt that trick from the journeyman before you. He's gone now. His apprenticeship ended and he left the village. Rumour says he works in the city now, makes blades for nobles. You think about that more than you should. You get the fire going again. No complaints, no words. The blacksmith isn't awake yet, and you value the silence more than food. You pump the bellows until the fire glows orange and angry. You rake the coals flat, place iron bars for the morning's work and prepare the quenching trough. All without orders. You just know. You have one shirt. One. It's grey from ash, stiff with old sweat. The elbows are patched with sackcloth. You burned a hole in it last week and stitched it with wire. The stitches cut your skin when you move, but it holds. A travelling knight stopped in once to get his armour repaired. You remember him because he looked at you like you were part of the floor. He handed the blacksmith a helmet with a dent and said, "Fix it." Never said please. Never looked twice. You were the one who polished it. You were the one who held the tongs as it was reshaped. The knight nodded to the blacksmith and rode off. You never got a word. Sometimes noble sons visit to watch. They never stay long. The heat makes them sweat. The noise makes them wince. One boy dropped a glove into the coals by accident. You snatched it out bare-handed and got yelled at for damaging the leather. No one asked if your hand was burned. It was. You learn the rhythm of the forge like a heartbeat. The clank, the hiss, the pulse of air from the bellows. It gets in your blood. You time your steps to the ring of iron. You whisper numbers under your breath to keep track of heat cycles. Too hot and the metal splits. Too cool and it won't bend. You know the difference by sight, by feel, by smell. Lunch is boiled barley from a shared pot. You eat quickly while the master talks to a merchant. You don't taste it. You never do. Your tongue is used to grit and steam. Once the barley had a beetle in it. You flicked it out, ate the rest. It didn't matter. You clean tools during breaks. Not real breaks, just moments when your hands stop shaking. You oil the hammerheads. You sharpen the chisels. You check the bellows leather for cracks. You tap the anvil to check for fractures, though you wouldn't know what to do if you heard one. Your bed is a pile of straw in the corner. You share the space with mice. You leave crumbs for them, not out of kindness, just because it keeps them from chewing your boots. Your boots, by the way, are too small now. Your toes bleed when you walk too long. You wrap them in cloth and hope winter doesn't come early. You flinch less now. Not because you're braver, because you've learned not to show it. Once a spark landed on your ear and you didn't move. The blacksmith nodded. That was the only approval you've had this season. You're allowed to file down edges now. You're allowed to sharpen sickles, scythes, carving knives. The real stuff, the swords, the chisels for masons, that's still off limits. You don't mind. Much. You tell yourself it's just part of the years. Just one more year, or 2, or 5. You help deliver nails to the carpenter. He doesn't talk to you either, just grunts and throws a coin to the blacksmith. You caught it mid-air once, got yelled at for being showy. One afternoon a villager came to collect a gate hinge. Simple piece. You forged it yourself, bent the loop with iron clamps, quenched it, sanded it. The blacksmith took the coin, passed it over and said, "Made by my apprentice." The man nodded at you, said, "Good work," then walked away. You held that moment in your chest for a week. The days blur. Heat, iron, smoke. You can tell the time of day by the shadows on the forge wall, by the pain in your shoulders, by the smell of the quenching barrel. You used to think you'd get used to it. You don't. You just stop noticing. You talk to the tool sometimes, not words, just murmurs, like you're part of the forge now, and it's part of you. You hum while you file, tap your fingers against the handle of the tongs. The rhythm keeps you from drifting too far, keeps the burn in your arms from turning into something worse. You've learned to eat without sitting, to sleep without fully closing your eyes. Once, a customer shouted when he stepped too close and caught a coal in his boot. You didn't even look up, just passed the bucket. He glared at you like it was your fault. It always is somehow. You've seen others come and go. A boy from the next village started last spring, lasted 2 weeks, burned his hand, cried, and his father pulled him out. You didn't even learn his name. You just took over his chores. The blacksmith doesn't praise. He doesn't teach. He just assumes you'll learn what you need by watching. And you have. You know what a bad weld smells like. You know when a blade's going to crack just from how it sings on the anvil. You know which coals burn hottest and which ones leave that weird green smoke that gives you headaches. Winter's coming. You can feel it in the stone floor, in the way your fingers freeze around the bellows handles in the morning. The snow always finds its way through the roof. You've patched the worst leaks, but there's only so much you can do with tin scraps and pitch. The blacksmith caught a fever last month. You ran the forge alone for 4 days. No one thanked you. But the work didn't stop, and that was thanks enough. A priest came by once, needed hinges for a reliquary chest, wanted them inlaid. You didn't even know what inlay meant until the blacksmith showed you, briefly, impatiently, and told you to figure it out. You did. Took you all night. Your hands cramped so bad you couldn't feel them in the morning. But the priest said nothing when he picked it up, just nodded and paid. Sometimes you hear music in the village square, someone strumming a lute, singing. You don't go near. You wouldn't fit. You wouldn't know what to do with that kind of softness. You barely remember your own singing voice. You still have all 10 fingers. That makes you lucky. You've been burned, sure. Bitten by red-hot iron, smacked by sparks, scalded by boiling water from the quench. But you're intact, mostly. Your left knee gives out when you crouch too long. Your back's shaped wrong for your age, but your hands still work. That's what matters. The blacksmith's son visits sometimes. He's training in another town. He'll take over one day, they say. He's soft, too clean, wears a good tunic, trimmed sleeves. His hands aren't marked. You don't know if he's ever pumped bellows for 5 hours straight. You don't say anything, just nod when he passes. You sharpen your own knife when the others are sleeping, just in case. Not for them, for you. You tell yourself you'll leave one day. Not today, not next month, but someday. You'll walk out with that knife and find a forge of your own, somewhere where the tools already know your name, but that's just a story. You're still here. still hauling coal, still wiping sweat with the sleeve of your burned shirt, still squinting through smoke to make out the shape of a new iron gate hinge, still hearing the hiss of red-hot steel meeting water and the sizzle it makes, like something dying and being born in the same breath. You cough, again, hard enough that your ribs ache. The soot's getting deeper. You feel it. The blacksmith says it's good for the lungs. He's joking. Maybe. Tonight you finish late. The horseshoes are done. 3 new hinges sit on the bench. The fire's banked. You scrape the ash from the floor with a bench shovel, collect the slag, set the tools where they belong. You hang your gloves on the hook by the door. The fingers are curled like they're waving goodbye. You eat the end of a carrot someone dropped in the yard. Still cold from frost. You can barely taste it. Your tongue's burned again. You settle onto your straw pile, still dressed. You always sleep dressed. It's warmer, safer. Your dreams are quiet tonight. You're not a warrior, not a knight. You're not carving your name into the world. You're carving hinges, and horseshoes, and scythe blades. You're a blacksmith's apprentice, and you're still here. You didn't choose this job. No one does. You either had no family, no future, or no fear, or maybe all 3. You just know that the day the cart came through town, you were the only one who didn't look away when the bell rang. The man in the beaked mask pointed at you. You didn't run. So now here you are, standing in a leather robe stiff with wax, soaked in things that no water will ever wash out. You're young, maybe 14, maybe older. No one counted. Not after the fever took half the parish and the rest stopped caring. Your job is simple on paper. Follow the doctor, help him mix the herbs, hold the lantern, wrestle the dying. You don't ask questions, not anymore. The last time you did, he told you, you'll understand when it's your turn to cough blood. He wasn't joking. You sleep on straw behind the pest house, near the corpse cart. Your blanket's just an old curtain from a church that doesn't open anymore. You've cut it short so the lice don't climb into your sleeves. The first body you ever carried was still warm. The woman's eyes were open. She blinked once. Or maybe that was your imagination. You dropped her anyway. The doctor didn't flinch. He just said, "Get the legs." Now you can carry 2 by yourself. 1 on your back, 1 by the arms. The robe makes it harder. So does the mask. You can barely see through the lenses, and the smell is inside the beak now. Vinegar and death. Always vinegar and death. You stuff the beak with rose petals, mint, thyme. It doesn't help. You could bury your nose in a whole herb garden and you'd still smell what's under your fingernails. You've seen children coughing out pieces of lung. You've held down fathers while their wives scream for mercy. You've watched a priest give last rites and drop dead before finishing the prayer. Your hands don't shake anymore. That stopped in week 2. You stir the posset, milk, treacle, vinegar, and crushed garlic. Something the doctor insists wards off the bad air. He drinks it like wine. You sip it only when your throat starts to itch. You haven't seen your reflection in months, but you know you look older now. Your bones creak when you squat. Your back pops when you stand. You try not to think about tomorrow. You don't make plans. Not here. You dream sometimes, not of escape, but of a day without screaming. They don't tell you what to do when a child grabs your hand and begs for water. You give it anyway, even if the doctor says it's useless. The child dies 5 minutes later. You bury them with the rest. The grave pit is always open now. You're the one who pushes the bodies in. You stop saying prayers after the first 100. There's no one left to listen anyway. At night, the doctor writes in a book. He says he's documenting symptoms. You saw 1 page once. It was just the word pus written over and over again. You clean his tools in wine if there's any left, or in water if there's not. Sometimes you use your own spit. He never checks. There's a bruise on your thigh that won't go away. You tell yourself it's from lifting. You tell yourself that a lot. You sleep facing the wall now, because the shadows on the other side look too much like people who should have stayed dead. The bell rings outside. The new house, marked with an X, a family of 5. The doctor grabs his bag. You grab the pole. You open the door. The smell hits first. It always does, even before the door creaks open, even before the screams. It clings to the air, like sour milk and rotting onions, soaked in blood and burnt feathers. You hold the lantern higher. The family inside is still breathing. For now. A woman lies on the bed. Her skin is the colour of old wax. Her eyes flutter. Her lips are blackened, cracked from fever. Her husband crouches in the corner, arm wrapped around a child who won't stop crying. The second child is silent, too still. The doctor speaks softly like he's reading from a prayer book, but it's not comfort he offers, it's observation. How many pustules? How large? Where are they? Does the child still speak? Has the urine turned red? You don't look at the answers. You already know. You're handed a cloth soaked in vinegar. You wipe the child's face. He flinches. You check his pulse. It's still there. Barely. The doctor nods. You mix the herbs. Wormwood, sage, hyssop, rosewater. Useless, probably. But it gives your hand something to do. It gives their fear something to believe in. The mother vomits. Black bile. Some lands on your shoe. You don't react. You haven't reacted in weeks. The doctor tells the husband she won't last the night. The husband sobs. You've seen that before too. Then comes the bargaining, the priest, the coins, the prayer, the question, what if it's not the plague? But you've seen this too many times. The second child is dead. You carry her out first. The father starts to protest and stops. His hands are shaking. He can't even lift his eyes. You try to be gentle. You do. But the girl is stiff, and the stairs are narrow, and your fingers are numb. Her head knocks the wall. You whisper, sorry. Outside, you dump her into the cart. One more bundle among dozens. You mark her with chalk. Not a name. There's no time for names anymore. Just the number in the doctor's log. You go back inside. The mother has stopped breathing. The doctor checks her pulse, nods, then begins wrapping the body in linen. You help. She's heavier now. They always are somehow. You wonder if it's the plague or the weight of leaving behind the people who still need them. Back outside. Another body into the cart. You cough. Twice. You tell yourself it's the dust. The ash from the crematory. Not what you fear. Back inside again. The child is quiet now. Still alive. Barely. The father is staring at nothing. The doctor writes a note and tells him to burn all their bedding and not to leave the house for 6 days. The man nods. He won't follow the rules. They rarely do. He'll sneak out tomorrow to bury the child himself, and he'll spread it farther. You walk back with the cart. It creaks behind you like it knows what it carries. The pit behind the pest house smokes in the wind. The grave diggers are gone. Too many died. So now you do it. You and the doctor, if he bothers. You lift the girl's body first, then the mother, then 2 others who died this morning. No ceremony, no farewell. Just one more pile of limbs. The pit is nearly full. You wonder when they'll dig another. You scrape ash across the bodies. Someone throws quicklime. It sizzles. You wipe your eyes with your sleeve. That was a mistake. Now the sting stays with you all day. The doctor returns to his writing. You wash your gloves in the same bucket you'll drink from later. No one talks about that part. Everyone knows. No one mentions it. You check your arms for black spots. Nothing yet. Just bruises. Just the usual. Back behind the pest house, the sun goes down. You sit in the dirt. Eat a bit of stale bread with garlic. It's meant to protect you, they say. You eat it anyway, just in case. The blanket is damp again. You wring it out. Then you lie down. You hear rats in the grass. You don't bother chasing them off. There's no food left to steal. You fall asleep thinking of the girl's eyes. Not her body, just the eyes. Open, glassy, looking up at the ceiling like she saw something you didn't. You wake before dawn. The sky is grey. A crow watches you from the fence. You watch it back. The doctor is already up. He doesn't sleep, not really. He's boiling tools in wine and muttering to himself. You stretch. Your back cracks. Your legs are sore. The bruise on your thigh has grown. It's starting to turn green. You don't tell anyone. The bell rings again. Another house. Another X. You stand up. You grab the pole. And you go. Because this is what's left. Because someone has to do it. Because you're still alive. And that's the only qualification anyone asks for anymore. You don't knock anymore. You just push open the door and let the smell tell you what you're in for. Rot. Moldavian sweat. Rat piss. You've smelled worse, but not much. The woman inside points to the floor near the hearth and says, "They're under there." Then she backs away like you're the rat yourself. You nod. You don't say much. Most folks don't want a rat catcher talking in their kitchen. Makes it feel too real. So you drop your sack, unhook your stick from your belt, and kneel by the stones. You listen. Quiet. Then, scritch, scratch. Bingo. You lift a tile. It wriggles underneath. A tail. 2. Maybe 5. You slam the stick down hard. Once. Twice. The others scatter. You curse. Grab your bait pouch and sprinkle grain laced with dried pig fat along the edge of the wall. Something crunches near your boot. You don't flinch. You're used to that sound. Your stick isn't special. Just oak, worn smooth and dark from blood and oil. You've sharpened the end into a wedge. Not pretty, but it splits skulls well enough. You've named it Whistler, because when you swing fast, it sings. You check the bait again. One rat's already eating. Stupid thing doesn't even look up. You jab. Quick. Clean. The body twitches once, then stills. You drop it in your sack. The sack twitches too. That's normal. You've been at this for 4 years now, maybe 5. Time blurs when every day smells like mildew and meat gone wrong. You started young, too small to swing a real club, so your uncle made you bait traps instead. He lost 3 fingers to a bite that festered. You got the job after that. The pay's simple. You get a penny per rat, or 2. If the noble down the road is in a generous mood, which he never is. Some houses offer food instead. Bread crusts, old cheese, a boiled egg if you're lucky. You take what you can get. You always do. Dogs help sometimes. Small ones. Ratters. Terriers mostly. You used to have one. A wiry little thing named Bissell. He could smell a rat through a wall and bite through a boot sole to get to it. Died last winter. Cornered 4 rats in a barn and didn't wait for backup. They bit through his ear, then his eye. You buried him behind the tannery. No stone, just a rat skull nailed to a post. You don't have gloves, not anymore. They tore last month, and you haven't earned enough for new ones, so now you wrap your hands in old cloth. Brown, so the blood doesn't show, so the bites don't either. You've been bit 6 times this season, twice deep enough to scar. One bite swelled your whole forearm for 3 days. You thought that was it. You thought maybe you'd caught the plague, or something worse, but you didn't die, so you got up and went out again, because no one else will. They don't like you in town. You hear them call you filth keeper or rat butcher when they think you've gone past, but you haven't. You're still there, lurking, because rats never rest, and neither do you. You've crawled into basements no one's cleaned in 50 years. You've squeezed through chimney flues to chase a nest of pink squirming pups. You've stuck your arm into holes you couldn't see the bottom of, just to grab a tail and hope it wasn't a snake. You once found a bag of poisoned grain left behind by another catcher. Dogs died because of that. You buried them too. The worst are the ones kept by the nobles, not because they're mean, but because they're weird. One lord has a cage of black rats he calls the princes, feeds them nuts, watches them breed. He pays you a whole shilling if you find a white one and bring it alive. You did that once. He named it Clarence. It bit you. He laughed. At night, you dream in scritching sounds. You feel whiskers brush your neck in your sleep. You wake up swinging sometimes. Your sack of dead rats is your pillow most nights. Your boots haven't had soles in 2 weeks. You just line them with straw and keep walking. The best part of your job is that you can leave when it's done. No one expects you to stay and chat. No one invites you to supper. You kill, you bag, you get paid, you go. You think maybe you'll save up for another dog, or gloves, or boots, but you know that money'll go to something else. A new stick, maybe, or a poultice for the next bite, or a drink to forget the smell. The sack twitches again. You smile. There's always one that plays dead. You crack the neck of the last rat against a beam and toss it into the sack. That's 20 today. Could have been more, but your stick split halfway through a swing. You'll carve a new one tonight. You always do. The lady of the house offers you a crust for your trouble. Doesn't even look you in the face. Just sets it on the windowsill like you're a dog. You nod anyway. Take the crust. Eat it outside where the wind can carry away the smell. You check your fingers for bites. One fresh scratch. One scab torn loose. You tear a strip from your tunic hem and bind it tight. The last time you left a wound open, the skin turned black around the edge. Took a month to fade. You still feel the heat of it when the rain comes. You stop by the alley behind the butcher's shop. Good place for rats. Warm scraps. Easy pickings. You set a few traps. Wood and wire. Baited with lard. The kind you built yourself. The kind that snap hard enough to break bone. You check them in the morning. If they're gone, someone stole them. If they're full, you eat well. Not rat though. Not anymore. You've eaten it before. Once roasted over a barrel fire with an onion someone tossed from the tavern window. It tasted like shame. Like chewing on something that used to look at you with black eyes. You swore never again. You carry the sack through town. People part like rats in a flood. Some mutter blessings, others spit. One kid throws a stone and yells, "Plague lover!" You don't stop. You don't blink. You've heard worse. You pass the baker. He tosses out old flour and slop. The rats are already waiting. Fat ones, brave ones. You consider staying the night nearby, watching, catching. But you've got a call up near the manor house. Rich folk, always panicked, always certain their rats are special. Worse, meaner. You nod and keep walking. The manor gatekeeper lets you in with a sneer. Points toward the cellar stairs like you're the filth come to life. You nod again. You're good at that. You go down, into the dark, lantern in one hand, stick in the other. You find the nest in a basket of stored barley. 4 adults, at least 10 pups. You club the big ones first. Fast, quiet. Then you scoop the pups into a smaller bag. You could kill them, but the Lord might pay more for live ones. He collects bones, teeth. You don't ask why. The steward offers you a copper. You hold out your hand and wait. He adds another. That's the game. You never thank them. Just leave. By now your back's aching. The shoulder you carry the sack on is raw. You shift it, but it still burns. You stop at the old cistern and wash your face in the runoff. Cold. Tastes like iron and roof soot. Still better than nothing. Night falls fast. Faster when you live at the bottom rung. You head to the pit behind the cobbler's shop. It's warm there. Rats stay longer in warm dirt. You set down your sack. The bodies will fetch a few coins from the tallyman. The city pays for pest control. Barely. You count your catch again. 19, not 20. You swear it was 20. Maybe one wriggled free. Maybe it's still alive, curled in the corner of the sack. You untie it, peek inside. Nothing. Just fur and bone and blood. You dream of rats sometimes. Not in fear, just in memory. The way they move, the way they look at you. Like they know you're no different. Just another creature clawing for scraps. You wonder if they tell stories about you. The rat catcher, the bringer of sticks, the shadow with the bag. You sleep under the tannery overhang, out of the rain. The stone is cold, but you're used to that. Your blanket's an old coat with no buttons. You lay your head on the sack even though you know it leaks. In the dark, you hear scratching in the rafters. You don't move. Let them come. Maybe they'll keep you warm. Tomorrow you'll mend your gloves with thread stolen from a seamstress's trash. Tomorrow you'll sharpen Whistler's replacement with a file you traded from the smith's boy. Tomorrow more houses, more bites, more coins. But tonight, you sleep. Eyes open, breath shallow, stick by your side. Because this is what's left. Because rats don't rest, and neither do you. You start your day in the water, not beside it, not near it, in it, cold and thick and clinging. The swamp doesn't care that it's morning. It doesn't care that you haven't eaten. It doesn't care that you're 12 years old with legs too thin for the mud it swallows whole. The swamp takes first. Always. The chill climbs your spine like a wet rope. You hold your skirts above the water, not because you care about staying dry, but because the blood flows easier if they aren't weighed down. The leech is like that. You learned that last season. They feed better when you bleed clean. You walk slowly, carefully. Each step is a gamble. You don't want to stir too much or sink too far. Sometimes a spot gives way, and you vanish up to the waist. You don't scream anymore. Screaming wastes breath, wastes heat, and the leeches don't care. They'll find you anyway. You hold the pole in one hand and the pail in the other. The pail has a cloth lining soaked in cow blood, meant to draw the leeches when your own legs fail. You poke it into the shallows, swirl it gently, and wait. They come fast. They always do. Thin and black and twitching. You scoop 2 into the jar, seal it with waxed cloth, and mark the side. 5 more jars to fill before you can go home. You shiver. The wind cuts straight through your damp tunic. You've patched it 5 times. The elbows are more stitched than cloth. Your feet are bare. Boots are useless here. You lost a toe 2 winters ago. Frostbite. You named it after the baker's son who once threw a stone at your head. Losing it felt like revenge. You've been at this since the abbey took you in. Not out of kindness, out of need. The nuns need leeches for their bloodletting. The barber surgeon pays for extras. The apothecary buys in bulk. They don't ask where you get them, just that you bring them fresh and fat. The better fed they are, the higher the price. You learned that quick. Your legs are already streaked red. 3 clingers on your left calf, 2 on the right, 1 inside your knee. That one always hurts more. You try not to cry when you pull it free. Crying makes you taste the swamp on your lips, and it doesn't leave. Sometimes you work with others, other children, other forgotten ones, but not often. The swamp doesn't like noise. It prefers silence. It eats pears. A boy once laughed too loud, slipped under and never came up. They say the swamp takes who it pleases, and that day it was him. The sun never really breaks through the trees, just pale smudges on the water's surface. You work by feel, by instinct. You know where the reeds grow thickest, where the leeches hide under duckweed, where the blood runs faster. You check your pail again. 12 leeches, maybe 13. 1 curls in a question mark on your ankle. You leave it there. Let it feed. It's easier than shaking it off. Let them have what they came for. You've learned not to fight them. The worst part isn't the bites. It's the sickness. The ones that carry rot, that leave your skin warm and your stomach empty. You got fevered once, shaking and puking by the fire pit while the sister whispered prayers over your head and burned leeches in a pot of vinegar to break the curse. It didn't work. You recovered on your own, or you didn't. You're not sure anymore. You pass by the corpse tree, a hollow trunk with bones at the base. The locals say it's cursed, that something lives in it, but the leeches are thickest near the roots. You hold your breath and wade in. 3 more on your shin within a minute. You laugh. A bitter little thing. You tell yourself the tree likes you. You fill a 3rd jar, then a 4th. You wipe your hands on your skirt, smearing blood into the weave. No point trying to stay clean. No one will notice if you come back soaked in filth, but they will notice if the jars are empty. You pass an old man at the edge of the bog. He's squatting near a stump, mumbling into his beard. He used to be a collector like you. Then he got bit bad. Says it was a rat, but you saw the wound. Leech rot. Turned black by morning. He lost 2 fingers. Now he watches and talks to ghosts. You nod at him. He nods back. That's all. Some days nobles send their servants to buy directly. They want the best leeches. Large, dark, swollen. You once saw a knight squire ask for one by name. Do you have the bruisers? He said. The ones that bite hard? You gave him a full jar and charged double. He didn't flinch. You wonder what they use them for. You've heard of bloodletting but never seen it. The abbey doesn't let you watch. They just take your jar, give you a crust and wave you out. You eat standing. You sleep under the stairs. Sometimes the nursemaid forgets you're there and steps on your arm. It's almost midday. Your fingers are pale, wrinkled. Your breath smokes in the cold. You shift your weight and feel something squelch underfoot. Not mud, not rock. You don't check. You just move. You reach the hollow stump. That means it's time to head back. You pour a handful of swamp water into each jar to keep the leeches wet. You check the wax. Rewrap the cloth. Everything must be sealed. The last time one escaped in the abbey kitchen, the cook tried to beat you with a broom. Said you were cursed. Said your blood was poison. You believed her. You still do. You pull the last one from your thigh. It resists, tugging like it owns you. You twist, flick, drop it into the pail. It twitches once and curls into a coil. You seal the jar and tuck it into the basket slung across your back. The rope bites into your shoulder. You keep walking. By the time you reach the edge of the village, your legs are numb. The cobbler pretends not to see you. The baker shouts at you to walk on the other side. A child points and laughs. You look down. You're trailing blood again. You wipe it with your sleeve. It only smears. You drop the first jar at the abbey. The nun barely looks at you. She takes the pail, counts the jars, and drops a coin in your hand. You don't look at the coin. You just walk. You stop at the apothecary. He eyes your jar like it's a gift from heaven. He pays in herbs today. Thyme, marigold, some yellow root you can't name. You nod. That's fair. By dusk you've sold them all, or traded them. Your pockets are heavier than your feet. Barely. You sleep in the lean-to behind the stable. You don't light a fire. The horses keep you warm. One nuzzles your hair. You whisper to it. Not words, just sound. A comfort neither of you understand. In the dark you check your legs. Red lines, bite marks. One still bleeding. You press a rag to it. Hold it. Wait. You dream of hands, not your own. Larger, softer, wrapping bandages, saying your name like it matters, but the dream always ends with the swamp. Cold, black, patient. Tomorrow you'll go back, because the abbey needs its leeches, because the apothecary needs his blood, because the swamp always takes first. You got up. Maybe restless, maybe not. You're not sure if you even slept. The straw mat digs into your back the same way it did yesterday, and the smell clings, same as always. It doesn't matter. You get up. Because you're a fuller, not a weaver, not a dyer, a fuller. The one who takes raw wool cloth, stiff, greasy, still stinking of sheep, and beats it until it's soft enough, clean enough, usable enough for someone else to make something out of it. You don't get thanks. You don't get clean hands. You just get the pit. You pull on your tunic. It's stiff in places, damp in others, and always smells faintly like sour piss and wet stone. You don't bother with boots. No point. You're going in barefoot. Everyone does. The cold hits you as soon as you step out. But the stink, that's what hits harder. The fulling pit is already steaming in the morning chill. A wide, shallow basin of clay, filled with old water, full as earth and aged human urine. That's not a joke. That's the softening agent. They call it chamber lye, collected from households sold in sloshing pots and dumped right into your workplace. You step in, first foot then the second. The water is ankle deep and thick with silt. It creeps between your toes and under your nails. Your job is to stomp, rhythmically, constantly, cloth underfoot pressed into the slurry by your own body weight. That's the only way it works. You stomp, shift, twist, then repeat. For hours, you learn to fall into a rhythm so your mind can wander, because if it doesn't, it breaks. The cloth feels rough at first, then slick, then nothing at all. You trample until the fibres change texture, until they say the grease is gone. You can never really tell. You rely on feel, on habit, on pain. And when your legs cramp, you lean on the wooden bar beside the pit. The same bar that once split open the skull of a boy who slipped while trying to climb out too fast. You still see the dent in the wood. There's a second pit too, with a paddle. That's your next stop. Once the fabric has been stomped enough, you haul it out, dripping, reeking, heavy like a dead thing, and take it to the rinse basin. You beat it again. With a flat wooden club this time, over and over, to knock loose the last of the grime. The motion shreds your shoulders, the splashback soaks your arms, the fabric squeals under the blows. You almost envy it. Your hands have gone white from the lye, the nails soft. One peeled off last week. You wrapped it in cloth and kept going. You always keep going. There's no guild for fullers, no saint who watches over your kind, only quotas. Cloth in, cloth out. No one cares how it gets there. No one asks how many years you've been doing this. You've lost count anyway. You share a meal with the other two boys by the pits, if you can call it that. A hunk of hard bread and dried beans from the overseer's pot. You eat fast, wiping your hands on your tunic, then dunking them in the rinse trough when they start to burn. Your skin itches constantly now. No salve helps. The apothecary said it's wet rot. Nothing to do but wait. By mid-afternoon you've hauled 6 loads, maybe more. Each piece of wool heavier than the last. You've learned not to complain. The last one who did got assigned to latrine-like collection for a week. You'd rather be knee-deep in piss than responsible for gathering it. The pot collectors don't get even the scraps you get. The noble woman passed once, on her way to inspect the dyer's wares. She covered her mouth when she caught the scent of the pits, called it an animal stink. She wasn't wrong, but it was your animal stink. You earned it. You almost spat in the trough just to spite her. You take your break leaning against the low stone wall that keeps the runoff from flooding the street. Your calves are tight, your feet wrinkled from hours submerged. A rat darts across the stones near the cloth line. You don't flinch. It doesn't bother you anymore. At this point, not much does. You watch the sun start to dip. There's still light. That means more cloth, more stomping, more swinging. You let out a breath, pick up the next bolt and drag it back toward the pit. The water is colder now, the wind sharper. You step in anyway, because you're a fuller, because someone has to be. The light fades, the sky goes grey, then blue-black. But you don't stop, not yet. The overseer watches from the doorway, arms folded, waiting to see who slows first. You don't give him the pleasure. Your feet are numb now, that helps. Less to feel, less to hate. You keep stomping, shift left, shift right, turn, twist, repeat. The wool beneath your feet is a sponge for filth. It soaks and softens and stinks worse every hour. The pit water doesn't get changed, not often. It's saved, recycled, reused, and by now it's more piss than water. That's the trick, they say. The older it is, the better it works. No one questions that. No one dares. The last boy who did now works the pits outside town, where the sun never reaches and the cloth is too cheap to be worth cleaning twice. You think of him sometimes. Wonder if he's still got toes. You drag the finished bolt to the rinsing station. Your shoulders scream. Your wrists crack. You slam it against the stone edge and watch the filth run off in dark streaks. You wish you could do the same. Wash off the stain. Beat it out of your back. Stomp it out of your own skin. But it's in you now. It always will be. The older fullers used to sing while they worked. You've heard stories, long rhythmic chants to keep time. But not here, not anymore. Too tired, too broken. One boy hummed once weeks ago. The overseer cuffed him hard enough to knock out a tooth. Said he was mocking the work. You know better now. Keep your mouth shut. Save your breath for lifting. You once dreamed of being a dyer. Their hands are stained blue, red, yellow, but people admire them. They bring colour, you bring smell, they make beauty, you make cloth that doesn't crumple or crust. It doesn't feel like much of a trade. Another load arrives just before sunset, raw, scratchy bolts straight from the loom, still full of grease, still matted with burrs. You curse under your breath, just enough to feel it, not enough to be heard. You lift, you haul, you soak, you stomp. By the time the bell rings, your legs barely work. You rinse them in the runoff, though it stings. One of your toes is blackening, probably from a split in the nail that never healed right. You limp back toward the lean-to behind the workshop. That's where you sleep. No one's taken your spot. There's no room inside, not for you. Your bed is straw in a broken crate. You pull your coat over your shoulders and curl in on yourself, trying not to breathe too deep. The cloth stink follows you home, into your lungs, into your dreams. You've seen men carried off from the pit, too old, too weak. One just slipped and never came back up. No one marked his name. You only remembered his limp and his cough. You hear it in your sleep sometimes. You eat hard cheese from a scrap of cloth in your pocket. It's stiff, but better than nothing. You bite, chew, wince. There's a sore in your cheek that never goes away. Too much grit in the food. Too little time to chew. Tomorrow will be the same. It always is. You'll wake up sore. Step back into the pit. Stomp until your knees swell. Drag cloth until your skin splits. Beat wool until your hands go raw. But you'll do it. Because someone has to. Because the city needs soft cloth. Because the guilds need someone beneath them. And because you were born too poor to be anything else. You are a fuller, and no one wants to be you.